Hello, welcome back to the Mom Leader Way. I am coming at you a little bit raw today with some insights off the back of a lot of activity that's happened since last week's episode and just generally since the weekend, and a number of conversations that I've been having with friends and clients and just people in my DMs all around the subject of the GLP-1 medications, whether that's Mounjaro, Wegovy, or Ozempic. I am having more and more conversations off the back of, my openness to talk about this in a way that is hopefully empowering for others listening that might have carried some shame into their own journey, purely because people out there are judgmental, right? There are a lot of people with opinions on this. I face potentially a lot of backlash by talking about this, and thankfully, I haven't had that yet. In the same way that I haven't actually seen a lot of horror stories because it's just not in my sphere of awareness, because I am deciding to approach it very positively, and that serves me, right? That's what I see more of out there in my feed, in the news, and all that kind of thing. So, um, yeah, I just wanted to come with some fresh thoughts around this topic and what I am like really passionate about, and yet another full circle moment that I find myself in. And I have a lot of these, as you'll probably imagine if you've been listening for some time now, you would have heard me talk about full circle moments. And it's so fascinating that my coach, because I generally have a coach myself, my coach in kind of business slash body slash self-expression, the incredible Carrie Russell, who's been on the podcast earlier this year talking about using your voice in a very authentic way. She reminded me of something recently because I had a bit of a, let's call it a Debbie Downer, like we do. We're human, right? We can't be happy all the time. It was cycle related. It was coming off the back of like a really busy period where I was helping out my friends with their food truck. I was physically tired. I was coming into my menstrual cycle and yeah, just really feeling it. And it was followed, thankfully, by a period of time at my sister's, which was kind of welcome actually. That was all offline. I had to cancel and reschedule all my calls that week because I just couldn't get on Zoom. I couldn't actually download the podcast episode or upload the podcast episode until I got home, which is why it was a little bit late last week. But you know what? It was all good. Once I'd accepted that, I kind of just thought, well, it was the universe sending me a sign that I need to chill out, relax, kick back, and just um, see what breakthrough is going to come through this latest breakdown. Because that's what it feels like when you're in the moment, right? It really did feel like a breakdown. I was actually having an existential crisis where I was like talking about potentially looking for jobs and going back to corporate just because I didn't feel like I was cut out for it anymore. And um, yeah, like honestly, this happens. This is a cycle. It's a pattern that I have recognized in myself. And what Carrie reminded me of was that always when I have these little meltdowns, the breakthrough just brings so much more clarity and confidence in my next moves. And so the key for me is to not get sucked into the doldrums, right? Don't get sucked into the Debbie Downer when it's here. Just embrace it. Just let it flow through me. Just ride that wave, knowing that this too shall pass. And on the other side of this will be great clarity to be had. And so I guess some of the conversations that I've had kind of since then and over the weekend were really around what other people see in me. And as a two line in human design, it is very difficult for us two lines to see what we're really good at. And I think I've got a lot better at this, and human design has actually really helped me with that. So I know I'm a really good freaking listener. Like when you get on a one-to-one call with me, I am listening on a level that you perhaps haven't been listened to before. I will listen to what you're not saying as well as what you do say. I listen with a real open heart. And actually, what that does oftentimes is it invokes emotion in people. Like it brings up emotion and they're able to bring it out because they feel very safe and secure in my holding of the space. And this was reflected back to me actually in 3 calls that I had. I offered a free coaching call in the week that I had some time before my Debbie Downer, actually. And I jumped on the call with 3 different ladies at different times. And, a couple of them actually had tears and they had just met me, didn't know me before, might have been following me, but certainly didn't know me, hadn't had a conversation before. And they were surprised by how that emotion came up and out of them so easily. And I'm like, I know that that's part of my human design. So I know I'm not surprised when that happens now. And I can actually hold the space really beautifully so that they don't feel any shame, but they actually just get to liberate that emotion and, leave the call feeling so much lighter. So that's something I know. Like, I used to think I was quiet in rooms, but I now see that I was very observant, I was a very good listener. And, I'm able to really reflect back to the person once they finish processing what I see for them and connect the dots for them. And that's a really powerful thing in my arsenal, if you like, that I use in my work. And then there's other things that just come very naturally to me. And I guess one of the qualities that can sometimes bite me in the bum is that I am determined. Like, I am a real determined person. I'll never forget, I was in Australia with my friend Bridget, who I met when I was like 18. And we kind of were estranged friends for a while when she went back to Australia. And then we reconnected and we went and saw her in 2015, I think it was, last time we were in Australia. And it was really beautiful because we went out for the day on a reservoir lake and with their speedboat, their wakeboarding boat. And I really wanted to have a go, but I struggled to stand up on the board. So we had many, 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 many failed attempts. Many, 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 probably 40, 50 plus attempts of the boat being powered up and me not quite getting myself out of the water before I let go. But I was determined. I was like, no, we are not leaving until I have got up on this board. And I got up on that board and I have never felt so liberated and freaking amazing. And I'm so glad that I pushed on through. And my friend was like, my God, you're a determined little stubborn shit. And I know this about myself. When I set my sights on something, I am determined. And I also have to know when to let something go, right? And for me, there are a few things that I have been gripping onto in my business, which is coming up for 8 years now. Like, it's nearly 8 years since I left corporate. And one of them is speaking to the version of me that was in corporate 8 years plus ago. And that will make sense to those of you that are in business and talk to clients through marketing and things like that. And if not, then basically then what that means is I'm still trying to solve problems for my clients that were the same as what I had when I was working in corporate. So the imposter syndrome piece, the of never feeling good enough, not being able to use my voice in the boardroom, not being able to speak up and say no when I meant no, and I just take on more and I would overwork and overgive and people please and all those things. And to be honest, I couldn't be further away from that version of myself anymore. And so for me to keep on talking about that stuff, it doesn't feel aligned. Like, I can absolutely help women that are still there. And I do, like I do all the time, but it's not really where I want to be talking about. And actually what someone else reflected back to me is what they see in through my content online is just someone who's very authentic, very much unapologetically in her truth as she shows up and creates content online, and actually with a lot of joy oftentimes, and also very open to be imperfect, right? So never particularly worried about what I look like, what the hair's doing, if I've got makeup on, what my background's like. Really taking imperfect, messy action because I am not about being perfect. Not like there's not a single part of me that is about being a perfectionist. And so it's important to me that I show up online as my authentic truth. And, this is what I have been harping on about all along with the Modern Leader Way. This is the journey that I have been on myself. And this is what I love taking people on. It's that identity shift. And when I say I'm not the same version of me as I was 8 years ago, I am a totally different identity today in every element of my being. It's different. And that is possible and open to anyone that is open to change and to improving their life in a way that is on their terms, because they're unhappy with one thing in their life and they know that they have the power within them to change it, right? So it doesn't really matter if I am still talking to that person or that version of me back then, because I know I can still help her because I've got myself out of that. But actually, I desire to be talking more to a kind of closer version to me right now. And where I'm at right now is really heavily focused on how I can finally crack some nuts around business and who I'm talking to and what it is that I serve and what it is that I'm good at, and actually like really start to own it online so that my audience know whether I'm for them or not, right? To crack the nut around my eating habits and behaviors and my weight, my health, and overall just vibrancy and energy levels and body as I move towards 50, right? As I move through this transitional phase that we're in our 40s and early 50s. And that's like really present for me at the moment, as is really following the breadcrumbs of what lights me up, really following my own path of what lights me up, even if it doesn't look like the conventional definition of success. And all of this is kind of under that umbrella of the Modern Leader Way. So the Modern Leader Way being not my way, your way, right? I've said this many a time. If you've tuned in before, you'll have heard me talking about this. The Modern Leader Way is not my way. What I want to do for the Modern Leader Way is help you find your way, your definition of success, what lights you up, what your path is, what your breadcrumbs are to follow, what your passions and your qualities and your strengths and your gifts are, so that you can actually see them and amplify them out in the world, whatever that looks like for you, whether that's in your corporate job, whether that's in your business, whether that's in your home with your family. But the common denominator is here, I'm talking to the leader, right? I'm talking to the female leader. And a big part that I think in the past I've really underestimated how important it is the healthy part. Is when I talk about it's time for a new era of healthy feminine leadership, I am talking about all those things that I've just mentioned around tapping into you, reconnecting you to the truth of who you are so that you can work out what it is that you want from this life, what it is you're creating, then go out and actually create that and almost course correct if you've actually got on a path that wasn't for you because it's what you thought you had to do after school or university or whatever, it's okay to course correct. And actually we're seeing more and more women go through phases of their life where they are recreating themselves each time. So whether that is, the really gung-ho, ambitious, career-driven woman in her 20s and early 30s, moving into shifting priorities around having a family, giving more time to her kids and her family, reprioritizing how she feels at work. But then rather than when the kids have flown the nest, going back into that career-driven mode, they're actually looking at where can I make more of an impact in the world? Like when the work at the corporate doesn't really light you up anymore, and you feel that kind of emptiness in you. It's not just an empty nest. It's a lack of fulfillment. It's a need and a desire and a real calling to make more of an impact in the world. And as women, we are seeing these transitional phases throughout our lives in these kind of like transitional periods around those kind of ages, 35, then 50, and even into the 60s, right? Maybe in the 60s, it's more like, how can I give back to the community? How can I be more philanthropic with my wealth and with my success? How can I give back? So there is no shade here when we're talking about um, growth and evolution and change. So healthy feminine leadership is all those things, but it's also the health bit, right? It's actually putting our health first, whether that is our physical health, our emotional health, our mental health, our spiritual health. And those things have been something that I've had my eye on for myself for so long. And this was reflected in the path that I took when I left corporate. And this is where I'm having this full circle moment, because I realize it's always been the same thing, right? So whether that's actually when I was still in corporate around 2015, I signed up to my first health coach. And I think I paid her about £2,000 for working in this group program for 6 months. And I signed up for for the 12 months for 4K. I think that's how much it cost me. It was a huge investment in myself, but I was like, I'm worth it. And like this is it. Like this is going to be a turning point for me. So I invested, I went full in, I had a really great experience. And it was really the start of my inner work, the inner game that I started to play, the inner game that I talk about now when I'm talking to my clients about the work that we're doing together, to really unravel some of the stuff that gets in the way of us really reaching our potential. And that sounds so cliche, but it's so freaking true. So since I left corporate, I actually, before I even left, I signed up to do the first year of a nutritional therapist degree, right? So I could have gone on and done the whole 3 or 4 years. Nutritional therapy wasn't for me, but I did complete the first year, which gave me a health and lifestyle coaching diploma, I think, level 4. So I was a registered nutritionist, nutrition and lifestyle coach. But I didn't really want to use it in my work. I did use it, but it wasn't like the overarching thing that I wanted to do. It was more holistic than just health and nutrition. But at the same time as I finished that, I had started working with the Institute for Psychology of Eating in, I want to say Chicago or something like that, Michigan maybe, somewhere in America, with Mark David. And I studied with him. That was a really hardcore course. Both of these courses, I think, cost me in total about £9,000. So huge investment. But I qualified as a mind body eating psychology coach. And this was really diving into like why we overeat, why we emotionally eat, why we have to use food for comfort, and how we can unravel that and how we can move through it, right? And I did it first and foremost because I wanted to help myself. And I knew if I could help myself, then I would be able to help others. And it was around that time I also did a new NLP, neuro-linguistic programming coach program with the Coaching Academy. Another couple of grand spent on some more education of mine. And I came up with the idea for the Food Freedom Academy. And it was like a download. I've spoken about this more recently on the podcast. But that was like a download. It hit me. I scribbled it out. Like I had the core content. I came back on the Monday. I did a masterclass. I had some conversations with people, and 6 people signed up. And I took them through a 6-week program, and then I made it into a 6-month curriculum, which a couple of people went through. But the thing was, I really wanted to help others with it. And I'd come so far on my own journey, but I knew I wasn't quite there yet. And this has gone on and on. And funny enough, I looked in my journal this morning, and this time last year, on this date last year, I had just given up. So we'd just finished on the food truck for the summer, which is quite full on, intense, stressful on the body, like long hours, later nights. And I was also working at the pub. I was doing a little breakfast shift 3 times a week at the pub. And I gave both of those up at the end of August last year. So I woke up on the 3rd of September, I think it was, and was like, this is my first day of freedom, where I can really focus on my business. But also with the September back to school vibes that everyone's got, I tend to start to go into hibernation and start nesting. And this is where it's funny because the last 2 days I've had the proper Hoover out. We've got like a shark uh cordless that just gets whizzed around every now and again, but I've got the proper Henry out, and I had it up in the corners of the room, getting all the cobwebs out. It's like that real nesting time, that real deep clean, autumn clean, I guess. I do it in April as well as September, and it kind of hits me that we are transitioning into seasons, and it's obvious with the weather that we're having that we're going through that transition. And it just made me laugh because this time last year I was doing exactly the same thing. I was taking some time out to recoup, to re-energize after the summer that was quite full on. I really wanted to sink into my vision for my business moving forward. I really wanted to commit to focusing on my business, because my energy had been very scattered up until then. And what I also did was I did a week-long cleanse in September last year. This was a week-long fasted cleanse using some very intense products that were also very expensive. And it was a liver cleanse, and it was a like intestinal cleanse as well. And it had crazy results. I think I did a podcast episode on it afterwards, actually. And it was a really fascinating experience to go through it, to be fasting on only water and these enzymes that you get. That's all that I had. That's all that I consumed in 7 days. I'd never done it. I'd never fasted for over 48 hours before. And yeah, it was a really like coming back to myself and really seeing clearly that I want to really work on my health, because I felt amazing after it. I felt so good. So health has always been there at the forefront of my mind. It's always been something that I've kind of moved towards and then just fallen back from, just because I've gone back into some unhealthy, unwanted habits that have been sticking around for decades. And then when the choice came up around Mounjaro, it was as you know, if you've listened, it was a really big decision for me, as I know it is for most people. Because I didn't see it as a quick fix. I know there is no such thing as a bloody quick fix, right? There is no such thing. So I knew I wasn't approaching it from that point of view. I also knew I was kind of over the whole dieting thing, restrictive eating, because I know that the more I restrict, the more I'm going to binge off the other end of the spectrum, and it's going to be monumental, and I'm going to make up for it and some, which has been the story of my life, right? So I knew that if I was going to go down this route, it was really had to be holistic, and I had to be looking at how I was moving my body, what food I was putting into it. I knew I didn't want to strip weight quickly, so I knew I had to eat my calories, even though I might not have the appetite due to the medication. And I've approached it in this way. And what I've experienced is a lot of conversations on this topic with other women and men who have started taking the medication and perhaps are feeling ashamed about it and haven't told anyone else. Unsurprisingly, they're confiding in me, right? Because I know that I give off this safety that is key in these kind of conversations, to be able to liberate your truth. So there is, a whole conversation that's happening in my DMs with many, many women. And I can't ignore the fact that this is a conversation that needs to be brought to the table, and is a conversation that is becoming more acceptable than the first time round when I did the Food Freedom Academy, right? When I did the Food Freedom Academy, it was very difficult to position it to women who wanted to finally overcome binge eating habits, right? Because how many out there actually want to admit that they're a binge eater, a secret binge eater behind closed doors, or they emotionally eat? That was only 6 years ago. And actually right now, it's almost like small talk. It's almost like, oh, you're on Mounjaro? Yeah, me too. Or my friend or my husband or my sister is on it. Like we all know someone that's taking it and someone that's seeing results with it as well. This is like the first time something's hit probably since, I don't know, keto or the Atkins, that actually seems to be working for people. And yet there is this underlying fear that, again, the results aren't going to be lasting and sustainable. And that actually, when you come off the medication, you're just going to go back to your old habits. So I am getting to the point of this, which is 3 months ago, end of June, Adam's birthday, we were camping, and I actually had the download, the intuitive hit. I wanted to do something to support other people that are on the medications. Do it right, do it in a correct way, do it in a healthy way, do it in a sustainable and enjoyable way. One that's not like riddled with side effects and deprivation and depression because you can't eat the foods anymore. And so I've had this idea percolating for this program that I want to take people through. I want to impart a lot of my process, my thinking, my mindset, my emotional intelligence when it comes to being able to handle the same emotions that come up, which they will, and how you be with them when you're not turning to food because you don't have the appetite or because you are actually watching what you eat. Because that's a big part of it, but also the overarching part, which is again back to the modern leader way, is the whole freaking point of the modern leader way is this identity shift. Like when you go into a journey like you will do with weight loss on Mounjaro, you kind of want to declare that this is it, this is the last time. And you are going to use this as a tool to shift your identity, not just change your behaviors and habits, because that is a big part of it, but actually shift your identity. So you no longer see yourself as a secret binge eater. You no longer see yourself as an emotional comfort eater. You find different ways to cope with those emotions as and when they come up. You find different ways to fuel yourself, to fill yourself up, right? To fulfill yourself other than food. So that when you come off, when you taper off or titrate off, which is the correct terminology, the other end, you don't go back to old habits when your hunger returns, which it will. And it will come back with a vengeance if you have really restricted your calories, which is why it's not advisable. Like the one thing I'm trying to do is reach my calories every day. And what I'm trying to do is fill them up with protein, and more on that in what I am creating for you. So if you're still here and listening to this and you're interested, either because you're on a GLP-1 medication yourself, or you know someone that's dear to you that perhaps you have concerns for, or you just want to make sure that they're getting the best advice, or you're just interested in like what this whole fad or craze is around the hot topic that is the GLP-1 medication, then I have some exciting things up my sleeve. And right now, if you're listening to this anytime after the 4th of September when this is dropping, I am actually running a survey, just a short Google form. If you are taking a GLP-1 medication or you have previously taken one, I would love to get your inputs. Just looking for honest, open thoughts. It's a quick short form that you can fill out. And I will make sure the link to that is in the show notes below this episode. And if it's not there, it's because it's no longer accepting inputs. And then what that's going to do is really help me shape what support I get to create next. So one of the things that I am doing right now as we speak, or not as I speak right now, but what I will be going back to when I hit end on this podcast episode is a guide, a no bullshit GLP-1 users guide to starting really strong. And so this could be for new users if people are thinking about taking it or have decided for themselves that are taking it. I am never going to like give advice for someone to take it or not. But once you have decided with your own body autonomy to go down this route, if you want to start strong and give yourself the best chance of having a healthy, sustainable and enjoyable journey on Mounjaro or whatever other medication you're taking, then this guide is going to be for you. And so I'm going to do that as a freebie. You can jump on the wait list now. That will also be in the show notes. And as soon as it's available, it will go straight to the download for you. And then there's going to be a more comprehensive program, if you like, that I've really got some stuff I want to share. All right. And this is from my years of training and my lived experience and what I know to be true for most people, most humans that I come into contact with. So that's going to be more around the not just the practical pieces, but the physical pieces, the emotional, the mental, the mindset, but also the identity pieces. And this is going to be like a self-study program that you can take yourself through. You can purchase it. You can take yourself through in your own time. You can come back to it. You can not just do it when you're starting out the gates. You can do it when you want to have a reset because you've been doing it for a few months and you've kind of gone back into some unwanted habits that you know aren't going to serve you in the long run. You can come back to this and you can reset and you can go out the gates again with these new kind of principles in mind. So this is going to be super powerful stuff, really sharing the power of the journey that I'm taking myself on, if you so choose to wish to go down that route too, the modern leader way. And then there will be a support element that you can add on to that if you want to, because I really do think what I want to do is lift a lot of the shame around needing to go on a GLP-1 medication in the first place, help you be able to have conversations with your loved ones, with your friends, with your family, when they start to notice the effects of the weight loss, for example, and how you talk about it. So that you're actually talking about it from a place of ownership. Like, yes, this is what I've done for myself. Yes, I've used this as a tool, but actually it doesn't do it for you. You still have to choose what you put in your mouth. You still have to move your body in a certain way. You still have to, maintain a certain level of choice that is going to be supportive of your journey. It's not just like you take a jab once a week and you sit back and let the results happen. That is a misconception I think that is out there, that we get to bust by how we respond to people, by how we talk about our own experience of it. And then so there's a shame piece that I really want to lift and just give people a safe space to be amongst like-minded people that are going about it in a really smart way. So that's coming. So if you have 5 minutes and you're happy to contribute to the survey, please do. If you want to know first when the freebie drops, if you're thinking about starting or you want to restart your journey strong, then get on the wait list or look out for the actual link to the guide, to the freebie download, which it won't be long after this is posted. So keep your eye out for that. And if you want to know more about the support group and the coaching that I'm going to be able to do, pulling on all my experience so far and pulling in all I know from the Food Freedom Academy, etc., and really helping ensure that you have the confidence to come off this medication down the line and know that you've got know that you won't going to slip back into old habits, because you're not that person anymore. You're not that version of yourself anymore. You're a new version. You're a new identity that you're stepping into on the way. And actually, the beautiful thing with that is when you do it on the way, when you get there to the end destination, to whether that's your goal weight or whatever health aspect it is, you actually feel amazing. And you're not still carrying around this baggage with you because you've dealt with it along the way. That's what I'm truly passionate about. That is what, the whole principle of the modern leader way, of bringing your whole self to the table, of doing it in your own way, of knowing, liking, and trusting yourself. All of these pillars of the modern leader way are relevant for your health journey. And that's why it makes sense that I do this now. It doesn't make sense that I hold back on this any longer. It just makes sense that I freaking put it out there in the world. And if you are with me and you want to come along for the ride, there are many ways. And if you're confused about where to go next, reach out, DM me wherever we're connected on social media, and let's have a chat. I'm very open to that. That is all for today. I love you. Thank you for being here. I hope you're very well. And until next week. Who knows what we'll do next week? I do have some amazing guests lined up, so maybe we'll get back to them. But until then, take care.